Welcome to Mentoring Moments. Mentoring Moments is a sub-series of the eCommerce Edge podcast. It is composed of clips taken from Jason's one-to-one and group mentorship sessions. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Ben Muir from Unsociable to the pod. Welcome, Ben.
Hi, Jason. Thank you very much for having me here. I'm really excited to be speaking with you.
I'm super excited too. You're going to be talking about something today as a guest mentor on the podcast that I know sweet bugger all about. And so that's why I love doing a podcast, because oftentimes I'm talking to people that are experts in their field, in their niche, and they know things that I don't know. And so this is basically like a whole bunch of free consulting for me, but it also is a great chance to connect with my audience and share things that oftentimes there's a lot of experts in our industry, but oftentimes they don't get a podium or a platform where they can share that knowledge with the wider world. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do with the podcast.
I think you're doing a great job with it. And like I said, I'm super excited to be talking about TikTok Shop. I'm incredibly passionate about the space and how it's affecting e-commerce on the whole. So I love having conversations like this and just spreading the word to people.
Yeah, and look, this is an interesting one because, look, I've never started a TikTok shop, run a TikTok shop, run ads driving traffic to a TikTok shop. But I tell you, the more that I speak to, especially performance marketers, they seem to think that TikTok shop is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I've spoken to a few of them now, and they feel like it's almost like next generation marketing for e-commerce brands that is almost like the version after Meta, the version after Google, the version after Amazon. And a lot of brands are finding massive success on those three platforms too. But certainly, I think no one would argue that CAC isn't exploding. It is exploding. Every brand is struggling with that. They're struggling to find a balance between organic digital marketing, organic SEO, paid and performance marketing, influencer marketing, content marketing. They're spread. A lot of brands are just spread really thin. And so it's hard to be good at all these forms of digital marketing and across all channels. And then also when we think of channel proliferation itself, transactional channel proliferation, we've got the ability to sell on your own e-commerce website. We've got the ability to sell on marketplaces. We've got the ability to sell on social. And that's where I think TikTok Shop fills a nice niche, because not only is it a transactional platform, but it's also a marketing platform and it's also a content platform. So it feels like the marriage of all these things that digital marketers love to bring to the table.
Yeah, very nicely put. And I think you're right. Performance marketers are excited because this is probably the lowest acquisition cost they've had on a paid media channel for a long time. Because obviously TikTok wants your advertising dollars, so they're encouraging people to sell on the platform.
Yeah, and look, it feels like TikTok is trying to slowly but surely and very quietly and under the radar almost, so to speak, trying to bring not only marketing and sales and transactions, but also trying to ultimately bring logistics to their platform as well, right? They're trying to, it's almost like they're trying to be the Amazon of social media. And yes, Amazon has Twitch, and yes, they've got some other social media properties, and yes, they do digital marketing across their platform, both paid, and you can obviously do organic marketing across their platform with SEO on your listings, etc. But the reality is that the great thing about TikTok, as it strikes me, and again, I'm not the expert, you are, it's community and social first and transactions second. And so it feels in all the places that people want to hang out today, they don't want to necessarily be sold to first. They want to be engaged and entertained and educated first and sold to second. So it feels like TikTok's got it around the right way.
And I think I could probably dive into 5 different areas of everything that you said there, but I'll try and keep it refined. You're right. There's a fundamental difference between a platform like Amazon and a platform like TikTok Shop. Amazon, and why it's been so successful, is because the customer experience on Amazon is second to none, right? You're getting your product delivered next day, sometimes same day now. You know that if something goes wrong, Amazon are going to sort it, and they've always got your back as the customer. And you know that you can get pretty much anything you want on Amazon at probably the best price the majority of the time, unless you really go digging. So that's what Amazon have done exceptionally well. But Amazon has a problem, right? You only go on Amazon when you want to buy. when you have intent and you want to buy something. So what Amazon's doing is demand capture, in essence. The power that TikTok Shop has is it's all about demand generation. So this algorithm knows you inside and out. I remember the first time I ever downloaded TikTok, right? And within 5 days, I knew I was a fan of Glasgow Rangers Football Club in the UK. I knew I was a fan of, sorry, within 5 minutes, I knew I was a fan of Glasgow Rangers Football Club. I knew I was a fan of professional wrestling and all these other niche things about me, I got to know. And over time, since the platform's evolved its commerce element, it knows what I like, what I'm likely to buy. It knows that I work out in the gym. It knows the foods that I like. It knows when I'm going out for dinner, for example. It knows some crazy stuff about me because it can predict my behaviors because it knows what I'm watching, when I'm watching it, and why I'm watching it. So what I can now do with this shop experience is accurately predict what I want to buy before I even know that I want to buy it, which I think is the big advantage that TikTok has over Amazon, as well as the fact that you want to be on TikTok. You want to spend time on that platform. The average user spends around 30 minutes per day on the platform, which is a long time. And we open it 20 times per day as well. We open the app 20 times per day. That's a lot of time. So it has the attention and it knows you inside and out. And when it has both those things, it can accurately predict what you're going to buy.
And you make a very good point, which is that it's slightly creepy how well it knows me, for example, and the content that it's going to put in my natural feed. Instagram has definitely tried to go down this path, and now in my feed, I actually see more posts from non-connections or non-follows than from follows. And it's really interesting. Instagram seems to have really gotten religion around this whole curated feed thing, regardless of whether you're connected to someone or follow someone or not. But they seem to not have cracked the nut of the algo of putting stuff in front of us that is addictive. That I tell you, you can go down the wormhole of TikTok and you can look down at your watch and an hour has gone by without even blinking. It's scary. And I've actually forcibly stepped away from TikTok intentionally because of that, because I noticed for myself, it's super addictive. It's more addictive than any other social media channel. I'm across every single social media channel. Almost every, I'm not on Twitch, but I'm across every major social media platform. None of them are remotely as addictive as TikTok. And so I've had to make a conscious decision to limit my time on that app because it is literally as addictive as you say.
So I've got a funny story on this point that I'll tell you after I talk about something that I heard about a year ago now that I found really interesting. I'm not sure if Gary Vee was the first person to say this, right? So we'll credit it to him, but I'm not 100% sure. But there's a term called the TikTokification of everything, which basically means that all of the other social platforms had a look at TikTok. They saw the exponential growth in users and watch time on the app. And they said, why is this happening? And obviously it's because of two things. It's because we want to consume vertical videos. That's what we want, short vertical videos at the time. It's changed a little now. And we want content that is relevant to us and not necessarily anything to do with our friends or family, which was originally what social networks were for. So I think all of the other social media platforms have learned from that. You saw Facebook introduce Reels, and you saw Instagram lean very heavily on Reels, and like you talked about, tweak the algorithm to try and show you content from creators that weren't in your friendship or family circle. You saw YouTube release YouTube Shorts. Amazon have their own vertical video format now, so that's the TikTokification of everything, which is absolutely crazy, and for good reason. And the funny story I wanted to tell you, so I also do the same thing you do, so I really limit my time. I obviously need the app for my professional role, but I don't spend a lot of time on there day to day. I just like to keep on the loop of what's happening. So last year we did a straw poll in the office. Now the team do spend a bit of time on the app every day, obviously posting videos and looking at like competitors, those types of things, but maybe an hour or two a day. We took a straw poll of screen time, and one of the girls in the team had average watch time of 6 hours and 37 minutes per day. So we were pretty mind blown by that.
That is just, and it doesn't surprise me because the time flies by so fast without you actually recognizing it. It is just weird. And to your point about the TikTokification of everything, I'm finding that for my YouTube channel, which I've recently revived and started to push all my video content for my podcast to my channel, and I've been working really hard on growing that channel for maybe 6 months now. I find that like something like 90% of the watch time on my channel is now my shorts, not my long form video. And so the reality is, man, it's even impacting the choice of which content people choose to consume on YouTube itself. So when obviously in their feed, they've got some long form, they've got some reels, YouTube shorts, and the reality is people are choosing to watch the short form over the long form more and more frequently, and that's clearly showing in my analytics of my own channel. Is that the one downside that I've seen, at least in my own analytics, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this, is that short form doesn't convert to subscribers nearly as well as my long form. My long form content drives something like 95% of my subscriptions on my channel, but what it does is the short form acts as a teaser to get people to then go to my channel. If they like the shorts, they then go to my channel, they consume maybe one or two long form videos, then they choose to subscribe. Seems to be that funnel, so to speak, of my channel. And I'm just wondering if that is going to become a problem for TikTok, because we see now that it is a flooded feed. It is harder now than ever to go viral on TikTok. It is harder to build an audience on TikTok than ever before. Sure, in the beginning, they were vigging it so heavily and you could grow a 1 million follower audience pretty quickly and relatively easily on TikTok. Not the case anymore. So you have to be much more strategic with TikTok now than you ever used to be. But because they don't have the option of long form to funnel people to, do you think that compression of the funnel, because they only have short form video, do you think that's going to hurt them and their advertisers over the long term? Or do you see them developing a long form product to compete with YouTube over time?
I think it's a great question and an interesting one to discuss. What we've seen is TikTok have taken that into account. So there's a couple of points to note there. The first of which is the extension of video length over time. I don't know if it was 1 minute originally, but I think it was 3 minutes at one point.
Yeah,
and then
60 seconds was when I was first started posting there. It was a 60-second max.
I thought that, yeah. So it went 60, 90, and now we have 10-minute videos on the platform. There's a really famous example of one, which was the Hilton hotels, where Paris Hilton was like the main star. They made a 10-minute TikTok. They were one of the first people to do it. Went crazy viral. I think it had 37 million views. Don't quote me on that, but it was something like that. And within 24 hours. And it proved that people would watch a 10-minute TikTok. If you gave them good enough content, they would stay on the app. Whereas everyone thought it had to be like 15-second videos to be successful. And then the other thing is, I think you're right. We don't do much on YouTube, so I can't talk to that. But we've had a similar experience throughout this whole TikTok Shop journey, which is the biggest driver of followers for us is our live streams. So when we live stream for brands, people come into the room, they spend more time than they typically would with us on a short video, and they get to engage more closely with the brand. They're much more likely to hit that follow button when they do.
And for live streams, you have to have at least 1,000 followers. Is that right?
Not for shoppable lives, no. I think that's a creator thing.
Okay.
A lot of people talk about that in the industry, but if you have a TikTok shop set up and a TikTok account, you can go live pretty much straight away.
Okay, now this leads nicely into and segues nicely into the next question I have for you, which is explain, first of all, for people that do not know anything about TikTok Shop, explain what TikTok Shop is, how you get up and running on it, and how you integrate with it from your, say, your Shopify website or from your PIM or whatever it might be, where you've got your product information, your product details. First of all, what is it? How do you get up and running on it? And what are the requirements for a merchant to be able to get up and running on it? And do they have to be in a specific region, etc.?
So I think a lot of people get confused, and there's a good way to illustrate this. Meta has a shop feature. You can list products on Meta, you can list products on Facebook, and YouTube has a shop feature now. I've not spent much time with that. But the fundamental difference is it doesn't all happen in app. So with the other social platforms, it's always going to be a third-party link that takes you to the merchant's website or potentially an Amazon PDP in some cases. With TikTok Shop, everything happens in app, and that's the power of it. I wrote a piece, and I've been speaking at conferences recently about the conventional product discovery journey versus the modern one that happens on TikTok Shop and how it's totally changed things. So previously, you would maybe find a product on, say, Instagram, and then you would go do research for it on Google, and then you'd maybe land at Amazon reviews from there, and then maybe you prefer to buy directly from the brand, so you go to the brand's website. All these touch points and all these places for customers to drop off as well in multiple parts. And that was the conventional product discovery journey online for the past 10 years or so. With TikTok Shop, when you've got the right product and the fit for the platform, that can all happen in one. So that's the real power of the platform. We send products out to content creators. They make a video about the product because they love it, and it's a genuine endorsement that comes across in the video. They tend to answer a lot of the questions that people would potentially have because they're answering what they would ask if they wanted the product, because they know, right? Because they are the customer. They make a snappy piece of content that people enjoy watching as well, which stops you on the scroll. So all of that product discovery journey can go from scrolling on TikTok. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe it's a creator I know, maybe it's someone I don't. But instantly I trust them because they're a creator and they're not a brand. And then from there, I learn about the product in the video. So if I was starting at like the conventional product discovery journey, I'd probably be going somewhere else. But I'm not. I'm learning about it in the video. Where's my social proof? I've got two places for social proof. I've got the comment section, which in TikTok, it's always lively. It's always very honest. It's always very funny and candid. So you go there for social proof. People will be in there saying that they hate it, and people will be in there saying they love it. And then from that, on the same video, I still haven't went anywhere else. I can click that shoppable link in the bottom left corner. I'm going to get a PDP that looks very similar to what I would get on an Amazon listing. That's going to give me all the information that I would possibly want as a buyer, as well as reviews, which is a fundamental difference as well. That is all happening in a matter of seconds. And that condensed product journey, as well as the fact that people trust TikTok as a platform for the most part, and particularly from creators more so than brands, it just means that if I'm a user on the platform and I see something that I want, I'm much more likely to buy it and not have other places where I can drop off. And I think that is one of the main powers that TikTok Shop has versus other platforms.
Okay, wow, million questions. So this is exciting. This is first of all, this is very cool, because I've always said that for social media to succeed as a commerce platform, everything has to happen in app. You can't redirect to a cart, or you can't redirect to a PDP on a D2C website or something like that. The opportunity for cart abandonment is just ridiculous. And in fact, historically, what I've seen on platforms like Instagram is that they don't even dump you to the PDP of the product that you're watching the content about. They dump you to the freaking homepage, and you still have to then find the product. You have to then add it to your cart. You then have to go to checkout. You then have to put in all your delivery and payment details. The friction involved in that is phenomenal. So to be able to execute in-app, which is exactly why when we think of what's happening in China around social commerce, one of the main reasons why social commerce is so successful in China is because it all happens in-app. We think of WeChat, and we think of the WeChatification of everything in Asia in particular, and they're a payments platform, they're a logistics platform, they're a marketing platform, they're a content platform, they're a communications and chat platform. They do everything. It's the ultimate super app. And my wife's half Chinese, half Vietnamese, and I can tell you right now that WeChat rules the Asian world. It's just phenomenal how they've been able to achieve this. And I attribute it in large part to the ability to never leave the app. Like, you can do literally everything you want to do without ever leaving the app, and including your digital wallet, taking payments, sending payments, everything all in one app. So very important distinction that you make right there, first of all. Second of all, if I like a product from a brand on TikTok that has a TikTok shop, can I then navigate to their profile, their main business profile? And is there like a shop tab within there where I can see all their products, like in a grid view or something like that? So let's say hypothetically, I go, wow, this is a cool product, but I also want to see what other products this brand might be selling on TikTok at the same time, so that I can have a unified cart? Or is it always one item, one purchase, one transaction?
Yeah, good question. There's kind of two parts to that answer. So first is, yes, you can do exactly what you just described. When I go on that shoppable link from the creator and I see the brand, I can scroll down and then I can click on the profile of that brand, the shop or the seller, and I land on that brand's TikTok shop, where a business like mine would have designed it, and you would have best-selling products, you would have offers if you wanted to bundle deals, those types of things. It doesn't happen all that often. It's not the way that users typically engage with the app. What happens for the most part is people see that one product they want to buy. It's very much an impulse purchase, so they buy on the app. But what will happen in future as well, it's also interesting. Once you buy a product from a brand, the algorithm knows it, right? It knows you like that brand. It knows you like those types of products. So it's going to send you more content from that brand next time you're scrolling. So there's a couple of different parts to that. It's more to do with the way that the user actually engages with TikTok Shop. I think we'll see that change over time as people learn the nuances of it. So our team, for example, if they were scrolling on TikTok Shop, because they're so familiar with it, they would know, oh, I'll go in, I'll see if I can get like a bundle deal or something like that with this brand. But for the most part, people don't. They just buy the one product. And we talked about it all being so seamless in the app. An important point to make is TikTok Shop have taken that Amazon quick checkout and they've landed it on this platform as well. And it's already an impulse driven platform, impulse purchase driven platform. And you've been given the opportunity to buy a product in 2 taps. So I didn't mention that. Once you've bought a product once, it's literally tap product, buy now, Apple Pay. And you can do it in less than 5 seconds, genuinely.
Wow. And so they don't have, as yet, as far as I know, and I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong here, they don't have Talk Pay yet. They don't have a digital wallet product yet within the platform like Amazon does, like Shopify does, where they've got their own, effectively, they've got their own payments infrastructure and digital wallet infrastructure and everything else. They don't yet have that, but what they've done is they've tokenized your payment details so that with each subsequent purchase after the first one, now really it's just literally tap to authorize, and presumably they've stored your address details just like Shopify Shop Pay does, so that you just basically you're just verifying, yep, I'm still at that address. Boom, one tap. We've already got your tokenized payment details. We've already got your tokenized address details. Boom, ship it to me now.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly. Hit the nail on the head. And that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, convenience. Users don't even have to think, do I want that? Really? I am be honest. Hesitation is the enemy of conversions, right?
Yeah, sometimes they might find themselves, oh my God, did I really just tap that? Did I really just complete that transaction? Oh my God, I thought there might be some kind of confirmation page or a cart page or something like that. No, actually, and do you think they will get to a point where, so one of the biggest benefits of a platform like Amazon or any marketplace is multi-product, multi-vendor aggregated carts, right? Synthetic, really, we've got these aggregated cart models whereby I add 5 products from 5 different vendors. It's got one cart, one unified payment, one shipping address. Amazon distributes out the payments to all the vendors, sends all the product information to the vendors, sends the shipping information to the vendors. Boom, they fulfill it, and it arrives whenever it arrives from each vendor. Do you think that TikTok will eventually move to a model where they at least support aggregated carts? So, for example, instead of saying buy now, you could say add to my cart, and then you could just cart would just simply be stored against your user ID, and it would be a persistent cart. So every time you log in, you could over time you could add 1, 2, 3, 4 different items that you like to the cart, and then choose to check out in one go with that payment. Do you foresee them moving to at least supporting that model? Maybe it's not the default, but at least supporting that model of aggregated carts across many different sellers.
So I think it's a brilliant question. They already do. So you can add multiple brands, products, everything to your cart and then check out at a later date. So you can do that, but that's very rare that people do. It's just not the way that users engage with the platform at the moment. So I think the reason that's such a good question is it's a challenge for them. It's a challenge for them. It's a challenge for sellers. Like, how do we get people to think of this as a platform in the same way as Amazon, where I'm browsing, I'm scrolling, I'm seeing things that I like, I'm adding them, and then I'm checking out on payday or when I've filled my basket, all those types of things, because an advantage Amazon has over TikTok is people would wait and they would order 8, 9, 10 items at once, which improves all of their efficiencies. So I think for TikTok to really make this commercially viable for them, they're going to need to work out how to do that. And that's a challenge that I don't envy, because it's just not the way people engage with the platform at present.
Yeah, and the other thing that I'd love to get your advice on here, if I'm a brand and I'm brand new to TikTok Shop, is in the beginning, I remember, because I spoke to some merchants about this. In the beginning, the only way you could upload your product detail to TikTok was via CSV. So you'd go into the back end, you'd have your spreadsheet of product data, you'd upload that product data, and then in order to take orders down into, say, your OMS or whatever, you actually had to download a spreadsheet of your orders. You then had to upload them into your fulfillment platform. Then you had to, and then once the shipments were done, then you had to upload the shipment information manually back into TikTok, and it was painful. Like, it was pretty much as manual as it gets for the merchant to handle e-commerce on the platform. Now, as I understand it, and again, I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong here, They've now opened most of those capabilities up via their API suite. So now they're another channel, almost like a marketplace. I can push in via product feed. I can push in my data via APIs as just another channel, similar to how I would send data out to Google Shopping or whatever. I can then pull down my transactions via API 2 straight back into, say, for example, Shopify for fulfillment. Then I can push back up my fulfillment details back into the platform via API as well. So as I understand it, they have tried to make this significantly easier for merchants to onboard versus, say, even a year ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah, you're 100% right. We had problems like that. So just for a bit of background, so we're like one of the, I guess we're one of our OG shop businesses now. We've been working on the platform for about 18 months since it opened in the UK about 2 years ago. So we're very early. We service the US now as well. We're a partner in both territories. Um, and I remember how painful it used to be. So yes, I was very glad when they opened up APIs. And the main thing from that perspective is just being that vendors have started building connections. So for the majority of merchants that we speak to that we're going to onboard on the platform, there's an easy solution for integrating it with everything, and just making it a seamless connector between a marketplace channel and the rest of their tech stack. So OMS, great example. Like Linworks is one we use commonly. I think it's more popular in the UK than the US, but it's massive everywhere. Um, it now has a native integration with TikTok Shop. Dispatch Cloud does, and there's loads of middleware software options as well. So eCommerce,
Channel
Aftership,
Advisor, all the major
Channel
omni-channel
Advisor,
integration platforms.
Channel Engine. And then if we've got a weird and wonderful one, then we use an iPaaS system called Patchworks.
Love
Which can,
Patchworks. Yep, worked with them
yeah,
on a few projects.
yeah, it can pretty much make any system talk to each other. So that between all of those solutions, it makes life easy, efficient, and cheaper than it used to be.
Hey team, I have a big favor to ask you. Please pause this episode and send the link of this episode to someone you know that you think would enjoy this content. Really appreciate you spreading the word. This is how we grow. We're not a Joe Rogan. We don't have big, massive advertising budgets, but we absolutely want to grow. We want to get the learnings from all of these episodes out to as wide of an audience as possible, and we need your help to do it. Thank you, and now back to your listening.
Oh, fantastic. And speaking of cheaper, do they run effectively a share of success fee, so to speak, to similar to an Amazon would? Do they charge effectively like a listing fee and a success fee when a transaction completes? Like, what is the, like, how do they make their money off this? And what can a merchant expect to pay for the privilege of not only having a TikTok shop, but executing a transaction through TikTok shop?
Yeah, so TikTok wants your money in two ways, right? It wants commission on every sale that you make on the platform. It's a bit different in UK and US. By the way, UK and US currently are the only two markets open in the Western world. However, Spain and Ireland just opened this week, I believe. I don't know if they're officially opened, but they're in the process of it. So I don't think it's pure widespread news. Might be breaking news and I might get in trouble, but it is a thing. In the US, currently it's 6%, but going up to 8% commission on every sale. In the UK, they have an introductory offer for new merchants, so it starts at 2%, and then it goes up to 5%. I reckon they still want to really push hard in the UK market as like their flagship pioneer market because it's a bit more mature than the US, and so I think that's why they're keeping their rate lower. And also, there's VAT in the UK, which makes things a bit trickier as well.
Yeah, it makes sense. And if you're a merchant that's based in the US, but you can ship to the UK market, but you're not a UK registered company that's VAT registered, for example, can you sell cross-border into those markets and vice versa? If I'm a UK based company, but I can ship cross-border into the US internationally, can I list or sell in the US region?
Currently, officially, you need an entity in whichever region you're selling in, and you also need stock in whichever region that you're selling in. We've got some stuff in the pipeline with TikTok that I can't openly talk about, but hopefully that shouldn't always be the case, and there's some workarounds and things like that. Stay tuned on that one. But yeah, currently you need an entity in both locations. And I think both markets are incredible for TikTok Shop right now. You're still, even in the UK, we're over 2 years in now. You're still early if you join in most categories, apart from I would say beauty is the only mature category. Everything else I would still class as nascent and open season, to be honest.
Wow, it's very rare that you can say 2 years into any social media platform, social selling platform, that you're still considered early 2 years in, because usually by that stage, the land grab has already happened. Everybody's jockeying for position and they've already staked their claim. Now, when I think about how I would drive demand for my TikTok shop items that I've listed on TikTok shop, it feels like there's three primary ways that I would do this. And again, I'm sure you'll say, yep, that's great, but there's these other ways. Obviously, working with creators that can drive demand and create really engaging content. Presumably your own brand, you can create your own content that then drives people to those products, and you on your normal TikTok feed, you're creating content like you would as an individual or as a brand. You create amazing content, like we're seeing these massive companies creating incredible content on TikTok that you would never think. These huge companies, there's a couple of airlines that were doing some amazing things on TikTok. I think it was actually possibly a UK discount airline that was doing some amazing work.
Ryanair, yeah.
Yes, that's it. That's them. And then we have some other home electronics companies doing some amazing content. I'm constantly amazed at how many global companies seem to have unshackled their content teams on TikTok, unlike any other channel. Like, they can get away with stuff on TikTok they would never be allowed to get away with on literally any other channel. First of all, that's the very cool thing. So I'm guessing, okay, partner deals with creators, creating your own content that then drives people back to those products on your TikTok shop. And then the third, I would imagine, is paid and performance marketing on TikTok. So ads, basically, on TikTok to drive demand for those products. Is that the three primary ways that you would drive demand for your products?
So those are three ways. There's five in total. You nailed the first three: affiliates, which for most brands, not always, is typically the biggest driver of sales on the platform. It's the most scalable as well. Then you're right, own brand content, which typically tends to be actually the lowest of all in terms of sales contribution to overall TikTok shop GMV. And the third you said was paid ads and performance marketing. So yeah, that works across the own brand content and the affiliate content. That's where we put most of our spend, is behind content creator partnerships. That's where we see the best return on investment. So we are very much focused on that with any of our paid media. And then the other two ways, so one is Shop tab itself, and everyone's TikTok app now, they have a Shop tab which looks like any other marketplace that you would get. Gives you product recommendations, shows you stuff that you've looked at before but hadn't converted on. Just opens up to like bestsellers and deals of the day, all those types of things on the Shop tab. So if you position your brand, if you have a really good price point, if you have a product that's very high in demand and your listings are on point, which again, something we do, then there's a high chance you'll get a lot of sales through Shop tab. And there's some sellers, particularly in categories like FMCG, which in America I think is called CPG, that is quite a big driver of sales for them is Shop tab. That's very much like the Amazon way of selling.
Model, the Amazon model. And I'm guessing it's searchable. If you want to search for a specific type of product, it's searchable as well.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. So you can look in, you'll typically get the best selling product. So it's a bit like Amazon's buy box in that sense. But it's not as tricky to win with TikTok Shop. If you want your product to be recommended at the top of buy box, literally just sell the most. That's all you need to do. Have the most sales. So get all the other elements right, and Shop tab will take you even further. And the fifth one, which is something that we do, so we're one of only two live experts in the UK, as approved by TikTok, is live shopping, which is an incredible thing that's come from China. It's an evolution of the QVC, the teleshopping type stuff, and it's becoming increasingly popular across so many different demographics. And for good reason, because it opens up a virtual storefront for brands, in particular e-commerce brands who have never had the retail experience, to be able to do so online without the hefty investment of actually putting a bricks and mortar store together. So that's one of the reasons why I love live shopping so much. And having spent so many time behind the camera, on the camera, like working on behind the scenes, working on the technical side of things, then I just think live shopping is this amazing channel. We've actually got a really exciting project going on just now. So I don't know if we're the first to do this, but I think we might be. We're going to run a 24-hour shopping live nonstop in one of our studios this weekend. So I'm pumped for that at the moment.
Wow, that's something that we would see in China all the time, 24-hour shopping events, and in fact, national shopping events, Singles Day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is very much taking a page out of the Chinese marketing book, which seems to make a lot of sense. Now, unfortunately, so far, live shopping has not really taken off in the West like it has in the East, unfortunately. Instagram, in fact, if I remember rightly, I think Instagram stopped their live shopping function, didn't they? Because it just didn't do well. Maybe you can still live shop, I'm not sure, but I know that they really de-emphasized live shopping because it just never took off. So it's going to be really interesting, I think, to see if live shopping takes off in the West on TikTok.
I'd argue that it has. I don't know about Instagram, sorry. I'm the TikTok guy, so other platforms I'm like clueless on. But yeah, we've had some crazy results coming in recently, not ones that we've worked on, but just from creators across the platform. The first brand to break a million, it was a creator-led brand in the US. I can't remember the creator's name off the top of my head, but it broke $1
I
million.
don't know, it's probably one of the Paul brothers or something, and maybe it was a Prime Energy drink or something stupid like that, right?
It was a woman actually, and she's the founder. I think it was like a beauty skincare brand that was already popular on the platform. They ran some really good deals. They went live for 8 hours, $1 million. And then in the UK this week as well, one of the original TikTok shop sellers, a brand that was purely built on the platforms, a brand called Made by Mitchell. It's big in the US now as well. It's a creator-led brand as well, led by a guy called Mitchell. Oh, I cannot remember his surname. They just broke 900,000 GMV in the UK alone. And the UK is a much smaller market than the US
That
from a
is
single
mental.
live stream.
That is crazy. And would that typically be the brand itself live streaming, or would it be them working with like paid creators, brand advocates, things like that, where they go live on their own channel promoting that brand's products for an hour or live shopping, whatever, and pushing people to that brand's products? What is the typical approach here?
So all of those brands that I've just mentioned and the creators, they are creator-led brands. So the face
So
of
it
the
is their
brand,
personal profile.
yeah, part of it is them being a public figure. That's the appeal. But for example, the live that we're doing this week with the brand, we do have some creators coming on as like guest stars, but it's very much about the brand, the products, the vibe of the live, the giveaways that we're doing, making it a big event. Payday in the UK this weekend as well. Should be a big one.
And does TikTok yet support like almost like the dial-in feature where you can have the split screen where you have maybe an influencer come in and join your live stream, and then it's a split screen and the brand influencer is at the top or the brand representative is at the top, and then the influencer is maybe down at the bottom and they can have conversations with each other and those types of things? Or is that yet to come?
Yeah, we've been testing that for, I would say, about 5 or 6 months now. It's not something we use regularly, but I think it'll become more and more popular. And we've had a couple of really good lives doing that with a really lovely creator, actually.
Wow, that's amazing. And then I guess what you could say is you could say, look, in 10 minutes, we're having X creator come on. We're going to have a conversation with them. We're going to talk about whatever. I don't know if you're a makeup company, we're going to talk about their 5 top makeup tips that you haven't heard anywhere else before, or whatever it might be. And so you can almost do a countdown as part of your live stream. You could say, okay, we got 5 minutes left, 4 minutes left. You could do a countdown to when those creators actually join your live stream, right? So you can almost tease them joining your live stream.
Yeah, it's a great tactic. The longer you keep people in the live, the more the algorithm is going to give you new users that I think so want to engage with the live. So enter room rate and watch time are two really key stats to look at when you're moderating a live stream. So it's something that we focus on a lot.
Wow, incredible. And what do you think, if you were to look out, and again, I don't expect you to divulge anything private or that you shouldn't be divulging, but what do you think off the top of your head, if you had a crystal ball and you were to look out 12 months, 18 months from now, what do you think TikTok overall is going to be focusing on to drive performance? Because at the end of the day, they need to be a commerce company. They want to be clipping the ticket on every single product sold in the world if they could do it, if they could achieve it. But definitely every product being promoted on their platform, they would ideally like that transaction to go through a TikTok shop. So presumably, I would think that expanding into new regions and enabling new regions is very high on the priority list. But other than expanding into new regions and enabling new regions for this, I would think that in-app translation, like real-time voice translation, where the watcher could say, look, I nominate English or I nominate Spanish, whatever, regardless of what the person, say, for example, that's doing a live, they might be speaking in English. But I would imagine that a platform like TikTok, because they're such an international platform, they'd say, let's translate in real time for the watcher so that they can actually consume this content locally for them. So I'd imagine that's part of it. Like internationalization is a given that they're going to do that. Payments infrastructure, their own payments infrastructure and wallet infrastructure. I'm assuming they're probably going to come to market with something like that at some point. It feels like a no-brainer for them. So those are the things off the top of my head that I would think strategically are important to them, but I'd love your take.
I think those are both really cool. points, and I hadn't really thought about the first, to be honest, but I could definitely see that becoming a thing, particularly with one of our barriers to entry for scaling into like European markets, for example, when they open language. We would need to have studios in every location with local language speakers. So I think that would definitely help with barrier to entry for brands if they're wanting to sell internationally on the channel. That's really interesting, actually. From my perspective, I think something crazy is about to happen. I think that Amazon is scared of TikTok, and I think we're about to see a bit of a war between the two, to be honest, because I mentioned it earlier on, but what TikTok has that Amazon doesn't is the attention. And the other things that Amazon has that TikTok doesn't, which is the amazing logistics network, the reliable brand that you're always going to get your products quick on time. That's something TikTok's working on, and they've really tightened their SLAs with sellers since I started on the platform. They're really strict on it. They want every customer to have a good experience on the platform because they know that's what's going to keep you coming back and buying from it. And I think if they can nail all those things, I don't see any reason why they can't continue to scale and become one of, if not the biggest marketplace channels in the world.
Wow. That's a big call, but I would think that product breadth and depth would be a biggie, right, for them. They're gonna pretty aggressively have to court, particularly manufacturing brands, D2C brands, and really up the quantity and breadth and depth of products and internationalization of products that they are able to source from as well. And I guess that goes hand in hand with opening up new markets, right?
So they are, you're right. They are aggressively doing that in both regions at the moment, and I think they will continue to do so because they see the problem that you've just mentioned.
Wow. One final question, and then we'll move on to the next segment here. B2B e-commerce is becoming, this is the space I play in every single day, live and breathe B2B e-commerce space after spending so many years in B2C and D2C. And I've really loved moving into that B2B space, that manufacturer, businesses selling to businesses space, manufacturers, wholesale distribution, etc. And Amazon has already stated that is their next big focus point, Amazon Business. They've already spoken about the fact that in Europe, they do not have the breadth of product available for B2B buyers in Europe that they would like. There's categories they're very light in. They realize that logistically speaking, they can't service the B2B buyer at scale like they would like to. So they're making a big focus on B2B. Do you think that TikTok will ever make B2B a focus?
Difficult to see how they would pull it off. I think from a content perspective, it already is. I didn't really tell you the story at the start, but like we're a B2B service business, obviously, and we built our brand on TikTok originally. I used to play a character on the channel called Grumpy Scottish Boss, and we did humorous skits to advertise our business. There's lawyers and doctors and all sorts of like random businesses you wouldn't be expecting to be on there, manufacturers.
Miss XL, she's famous on TikTok.
Yeah, there's tons of examples of it. I think from a content perspective, yeah, it's difficult to see them pulling off shop. I think DAC will be very much the focus for the next few years, at least anyway.
Love it. Man, this has been a super cool conversation. I've learned a ton. We've been speaking here for 45 minutes or so. If people want to get a hold of you, I'll put a link to your LinkedIn profile. I'll put a link to your website in the show notes here. But other than LinkedIn and your website, how do you like people to get a hold of you and have a chat about this amazing opportunity called TikTok Shop?
Yeah, LinkedIn's definitely the best place to get me on. I'm on there all the time, so I get back to my messages pretty quickly, I'll accept your connection requests pretty quickly. Yeah, and I post content on there. I've had a couple of weeks off as a bit of a rest, but I usually post content on there multiple times per week. I'll give you all the latest updates on TikTok Shop and social commerce. So that is definitely the best place to check me out. I'm very active on the platform. And if you want to learn more about Unsociable, you can go and visit the website. We are unsociable.com. Thank you for linking that. And if you're interested in having a chat about TikTok Shop, then I'm always open to it. As you can probably tell, I love talking about the platform. I'm super excited to see where the space goes.
Love it. I can feel the passion. It's palpable. I can feel it through the screen. Absolutely love that. Now, as we come down to the end of our time together, this is where I get to flip the script. I get to hand the microphone over to you, let you ask me one question. Any question you like, can be personal or professional. So, Mr. Ben Muir from Unsociable, what is your question for me today?
I'd quite like to get your take on the Amazon and TikTok debate because you didn't go into it too much. Do you think that TikTok is a rival for Amazon, and how do you see it all playing out?
Look, I think everybody's a rival for everybody these days, to be perfectly honest. I don't think it's necessarily just one for one. I think Meta wants to be doing transactional e-commerce through every one of its social platforms. They've tried and failed many times before. They've tried to bring transactionality to WhatsApp, and that's worked in some regions but not worked in others, and it's seen high uptake in places like Brazil but not other countries. I see Google really, they've tried multiple times to bring e-commerce to their platforms, and they've really struggled with that. I think that every platform is a competitor to every other major platform because they all want their finger in the commerce pie. They all want to clip the ticket of every transaction flowing across the internet, and they ultimately want to be the gatekeepers. But I think in terms of direct competition, Amazon and TikTok are the most natural direct competitors that I can think of. Like when you think about it, and you made a very good point before when you were talking about not needing to leave the app to do product discovery, product research, entertainment, education, transaction right in one place. Once we moved to Mexico here, I had to outfit our house with a whole bunch of stuff, and I bought the vast majority of it. In fact, I'm trying to think, maybe even 100% of it off of Amazon. But when I went to Amazon, their content is really lacking. Their product content is really lacking. And so you either will see on a product page, so occasionally you will see an embedded YouTube video if the merchant is embedded a YouTube video in there. But really, when I was doing product research and product compare, and I wanted to read product reviews, I would always have to leave Amazon to do it 100% of the time. So I'd be going to product comparison websites, I'd be going to product review websites, I'd be going to YouTube and watching video reviews of products, product recommendations, etc. And then I would go back to Amazon to find that product, try to find it obviously from the cheapest and the most local source that could get it to me the quickest, and then execute the transaction on Amazon. But if at any point during that research process, if at any point I would have been able to find that product cheaper and faster, I would never have gone back to Amazon. The only reason I went back to Amazon is because they were still cheaper and they were still faster for my address than any of the other sites that I happened to come across. Now, that may not always be the case. And if they aren't the cheapest and they aren't the fastest and if they aren't the most trustworthy, then if they can't keep people on the Amazon site to do all their product education, all their product entertainment, and their product transactions, they got a problem on their hands. And I'm a prime example of that because I spent more time off Amazon doing research than on Amazon. That's a little scary as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. We didn't even dig into TikTok as a search engine, which is a huge factor of concerns for other tech businesses because people do go on TikTok to look up things, to understand products, to see a visual, to see a creator's take on it, all those types of things. So yeah, that's an interesting take.
Yeah, product reviews, behind the scenes videos, all those things. TikTok is perfect for that, right? Especially if it's a 10-minute video. If I want to do a product review, most product reviews on YouTube are around that 5 to 15 minute mark, max 15 minutes. But that 10-minute window on TikTok is perfect for a full-on influencer product review, especially if it's a technical product that you want to actually show going into a screen or an unboxing and you actually want to do a setup video or something like that. You need more than 60 seconds. You can't do that in 60 seconds. So 10 minutes is probably perfect for product reviews, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure they won't be opposed to changing the view time, the length of videos that can be on the platform over time as well. Interesting times, isn't it?
Exciting stuff. Ben, this has been a fantastic conversation. I super appreciate your time, and I can't wait to speak to you again soon, my friend.
Thanks a lot, Jason. It's been great to meet you. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
If you'd like to get mentored by Jason for free, head over to greenwoodconsulting.net, scroll to the bottom of the page, and click Get Mentored by Jason.